It took me a while to figure out what was my voice. And part of that came through writing and research and a lot of reading on the topics of what had happened to Devadasis. Then it became clear to me that you can't run away from what the history is that's inside your body. You have to face it, and you have to find a way to reconcile. That's why I chose to work through the medium of Bharathanatyam and not Odissi or a Western contemporary dance practice in order to be contemporary and experimental. The burden of history to me was, let's not forget that we were colonized, number one. Let's not forget that we have done this to the Devadasi form. But what my research also showed me is that Nautch valis and Devadasis were equally made invisible in the American, European and Australian dance context. That shocked me. The more I did research, as you might have read in my article around the invisible histories of the mothers of American modern dance, such as Ruth St. Denis and Martha Graham, for whom the Nautch valis who came to Coney Island in 1903 and 1904, that Ruth St. Denis then saw and developed her first solo called Radha, Dance of the Senses, in sense. She did lots of pieces, and even the Nautch, all based on actual Nautch valis that were in New York, circulating and performing. But her borrowings became hidden, and she emerged as one of the solo geniuses and one of the three mothers of American modern dance because of anti-Asian immigration laws in the United States, just like the White Australia policy here that prevented Indian bodies from contesting the appropriation of their forms onto white bodies. So I began seeing a cyclical thread of the ways in which Brahmin figures like Rukmini Devi traveled out into Europe, to Australia, got ideas about dance, meeting Anna Pavlova, understood what theatre was, and went to recreate a form that, she imagined in a way. Similarly to Ruth St. Denis, who took the Nautch valis practice and embodied it on her body, which was much more palatable, right? You see the parallels between a white body taking on an Indian form and a Brahmin body taking on a Devadasi form. Both forms of appropriation are in this transnational circulation. One because of anti-Asian immigration policies, and the other one because of anti-Nautch policies, right? Casteism, all kinds of issues have come into play in the colonial debate about the female body and its role. Working all of this through the writing, performing, and developing what I call the talking dance, what came concurrently. And as I said, it took at least 15 years for me to find some kind of stable possibility for what could emerge. The fact that this dance helped me find my strength and my identity means that I owe it to its practice to do it in a fair, just way, and what I think is fair and just. I don't have a solution. I'm still working through these questions, and I'm exploring how not only do I need to work this out for myself, how can I set examples for other people to have other possibilities. I started working with Uttra Vijay, a Carnatic singer, who connected with me because of the ways in which Andal, the 12th century female poet that is considered to be an Alwar, one of the Vaishnavite figures that are of great theological importance and significance. We connected through Andal's texts. Andal's stories, the Tirupavai and the Nachiyar Tirumuri, for example, have been handed down from mother to daughter, generation after generation, and has survived and has come to me through my grandmother, and for her through her mother and her grandmothers. And we connected around that to bring forth an aspect of Andal's work that isn't performed as much, the Nachiyar Tirumuri. So Uttra actually set the music in a way that hasn't been done before. And I started implementing the talking dances, where I would not only tell Andal's stories, but mine and Uttra's stories intertwined with our journeys with Andal across time. And as we started building the Andal work, we started doing intercultural work. So the kinds of projects that I've been doing are about connecting to Indigenous concerns about the Earth Mother, which we have too. But we've lost this in colonization. We've forgotten what is important, in a sense, especially in the last 30 to 40 years. So if we as artists can't find pathways, I don't know what the future of the planet really is. So that's why I guess, my passion for sharing the importance of the artistic practice beyond just dancing our gods and their stories for ourselves, or inayikas, women that are always waiting, for the Lord to come. Nothing wrong with that. But why can't we actually situate that within the current political crisis and the climate, so that we're not caught in ahistorical time? Which goes back to your question around why not the Margam? Why not the Margam? I don't have an answer to it. But if the Margam can be used to tell contemporary stories, to deal with the crisis we live in around poverty, around climate change, why not? That is what I'm trying to do with my practice. Where do you see a cultural respect for an artist that used to exist maybe before 40, 50 years ago? But with the ways that neoliberalism has worked, the ways in which capitalism has expanded and has become this sort of giant monster that constantly is feeding itself, the inequities in society have become even sharper. And the role of the artist has become tinier and tinier and tinier, and the funding and the support has diminished, right? Those of us that are artists know how important the artistic voice is in a culture, without which the fabric of the culture itself begins to tear apart, which is why we're seeing the kinds of violence that we are. If our children are not exposed to artistic practices and everybody is going to just come in it for the sake of money alone, what kind of life is that, right? So I see this moment as a really important moment around environmental destruction, around artistic destruction, around poverty. All of these things to me is in the hands of the artist. How can the dancer, whichever art you choose, I'm speaking generally, actually commit to keeping to their forms as a form of resistance to the ways in which capitalism is trying to devour us and devour the planet, right? Where are we going to go without our stories? The churning of the ocean, Prithvi Suktam, the blessings of the mother, the blessing of the earth as mother. And this is where, for me, the commitment to the form is also about commitment to First Nations people in this country. And the work that I do enables me to partner with them in collaborative ways to prioritize First Nations sovereignty and who we are as migrants, to support their claims to sovereignty and find and weave our voices. My goal is, how can we activate artists in our community to think about their art as always already political, right? Because in a way, Indian and other Asian and South Asian minorities come here wanting to not assimilate to mainstream pressures, and therefore creating a safe space where culture can be held tightly and controlled for the fear of assimilation, which is a genuine fear. But at the same time, by holding ourselves as if we should dance or sing in the ways that we think it's happening in India or what should happen, I think we're missing out on the development of the form that makes us relevant to everyday possibilities and allows the next generation of artists who are trained so highly to actually have alternate pathways. We've built up Andal as both an intra-cultural work that we do for ourselves and for our communities in temples, in community forums, but also as this intercultural form, a way of engaging across forms, across cultures, with women primarily, and also as a theatrical form. How can it be done? And I would say that is the thread of all my work. How do we bring ancient material to bear in the contemporary moment? And so that everything we do is relevant. and not designated to the margins.